What if the most powerful Jedi who ever lived discovered an ancient weapon that embodied both light and darkness, before he even knew what the Force was? We all know how Anakin's story began on Tatooine, a slave boy with incredible pod racing skills and an unusual ability to fix things. But what if, during one of his scavenging expeditions in the Jundland Wastes, young Annie discovered something that had been buried for millennia? Something that would change everything we know about his journey. Before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You definitely don't want to miss our upcoming deep explorations of Star Wars alternate timelines. Let's establish our starting point. It's 32 BBY on Tatooine. Anakin Skywalker is 9 years old, living as a slave with his mother Shmi in Mos Espa. He's already showing incredible Force sensitivity, winning pod races that should be impossible for humans, demonstrating precognitive abilities, and displaying an intuitive understanding of complex machinery that baffles even seasoned engineers. But here's where our timeline diverges. Instead of Qui-Gon Jinn being the first to recognize his potential, imagine Anakin discovering Revan's ancient lightsaber while exploring a crashed Old Republic ship buried deep in the desert. A relic from the Mandalorian Wars, lost to time but preserved by Tatooine's dry climate. Now, Revan's purple lightsaber isn't just any weapon. According to Star Wars lore, this blade represents something incredibly rare, perfect balance between light and dark. The purple crystal symbolizes someone who has mastered both sides of the Force, walking the line between Jedi and Sith philosophies. Revan himself was the ultimate example of this duality, serving as both a Jedi Knight and a Sith Lord during his lifetime. When young Anakin first ignites this ancient weapon, something extraordinary happens. The blade doesn't just activate, it resonates with his Force signature in a way that's almost alive. The purple glow reflects not just light, but potential. The potential for ultimate power, ultimate knowledge, and ultimately, ultimate choice. With Revan's lightsaber in his possession, Anakin's understanding of the Force accelerates dramatically. The weapon seems to whisper ancient knowledge to him, combat techniques, Force abilities, and most importantly, the understanding that the Force isn't simply divided into light and dark, but exists as a spectrum of power and philosophy. This changes everything about how he approaches his abilities. Instead of instinctively using the Force for pod racing and mechanics, he begins experimenting with more advanced techniques. He starts demonstrating abilities that shouldn't be possible for an untrained child: minor Force lightning, enhanced precognition, and an almost supernatural ability to influence the thoughts of others. Watto begins to notice changes in his young slave. Anakin becomes more confident, more assertive, and occasionally his eyes seem to flash with an intensity that's both inspiring and slightly unsettling. Here's where things get really interesting. Revan's legacy isn't just about power, it's about philosophy. Through the connection with this ancient weapon, Anakin begins to understand concepts that the Jedi Order typically keeps from Padawans for years. He learns that the Force isn't inherently good or evil, but simply a tool that reflects the user's intentions and emotional state. This knowledge fundamentally changes how he views his situation. Instead of accepting his status as a slave with resignation, he begins to see it as a temporary condition, one that he has the power to change. The purple blade becomes a symbol of his growing understanding, that true strength comes from embracing all aspects of oneself, not just the parts that others deem acceptable. He starts helping other slaves in subtle ways, using Force suggestion to make their masters more lenient, helping them avoid punishment, and gradually building a network of loyalty that extends throughout Mos Espa's slave population. Now, when Qui-Gon Jinn and his companions finally arrive on Tatooine, they encounter a very different Anakin Skywalker. This isn't just a gifted child with natural Force sensitivity. This is a young being who has already begun to tap into abilities that most Jedi Masters struggle with. During the pod race, Anakin doesn't just rely on enhanced reflexes. He demonstrates a level of force mastery that leaves Qui-Gon genuinely stunned. The way he manipulates probability, influences other races' decisions, and maintains perfect control under pressure suggests training that shouldn't be possible for someone his age. When Qui-Gon approaches Shmi about Anakin's midi-chlorian count, she mentions the strange weapon her son found and how it seems to have awakened something in him. Qui-Gon's recognition of Revan's lightsaber sends shockwaves through his understanding of the situation. This isn't just the Chosen One. This is the Chosen One who has been influenced by one of the most complex Force users in galactic history. When Anakin is brought before the Jedi Council, the revelation of Revan's influence creates an unprecedented situation. Master Windu, who himself wields a purple blade and understands the balance between light and dark, immediately recognizes the significance of what has occurred. The Council faces an impossible choice. Traditionally, they would reject a candidate with such exposure to unorthodox Force teachings. However, Anakin's power is undeniable, and his connection to Revan's legacy might actually make him more suited to bring balance to the Force, not less. Yoda senses something different about this version of Anakin. While still strong with the Force and still carrying the emotional attachments that concern the Council, there's also a deeper understanding of consequence and choice. The influence of Revan's experiences, channeled through the ancient lightsaber, has given Anakin a maturity and perspective that's unusual for someone his age. Obi-Wan's training of this alternate Anakin becomes fascinating. Instead of struggling to teach traditional Jedi philosophy to someone who thinks emotionally, he's working with a student who already understands the complexities of Force use. Anakin doesn't reject Jedi teachings. He absorbs them, while maintaining his own philosophical framework developed through his connection to Revan's experiences. This creates a fundamentally different dynamic. When Anakin faces his trials during the Clone Wars, his approach to conflict is more nuanced. He understands that victory sometimes requires tactical thinking the Jedi Council might not approve of, but he also understands the long-term consequences of allowing power to corrupt his judgment. His relationship with Padme develops differently as well. Instead of hiding his emotions and letting them fester into obsession, he's more open about his feelings, while maintaining the self-control necessary to make rational decisions. The Purple Blade has taught him that acknowledging darkness doesn't mean surrendering to it. When Palpatine finally reveals himself as Darth Sidious, he faces a very different Anakin Skywalker. This version has already grappled with questions of power, control, and moral complexity. The Emperor's offer of unlimited power holds less appeal to someone who already understands that true strength comes from balance, not dominance. The final confrontation becomes less about choosing between light and dark, and more about choosing between wisdom and tyranny. Anakin, wielding both his traditional blue lightsaber and Revan's purple blade, represents something that neither the Jedi nor the Sith truly understand. A Force user who has integrated all aspects of his nature without being consumed by any single philosophy. So there you have it, a timeline where discovering an ancient weapon transforms not just Anakin's abilities, but his entire approach to existence. Instead of becoming a slave to his emotions or a rigid follower of Jedi doctrine, he becomes something new. A balanced Force user who truly brings harmony to the galaxy. What do you think? Would this version of Anakin have been strong enough to resist Palpatine's manipulation? Could he have reformed the Jedi Order from within? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more Star Wars alternate timeline content. Until next time.